In this video, I'm going to get you all caught up on all the major political events in the human sphere. This basic outline will give you a broad overview of events that run from the early days of Infinity to current events, Raven Eye and the Durgama campaign. Humanity measures dates and time via the new calendar and easy time. The new calendar is the standard system for organizing days used throughout the human sphere. The year 0 NC is the date of O12's arrival and establishment on Concilium Prima. It keeps many features of the Gregorian calendar, but is specifically designed for AI enhancement. There are a lot of issues that make the Gregorian calendar difficult to use in daily life. Differing day-night cycles, relativity frames, and clocks that just run slow. Once you're in deep space, calculating when it is can be very complex, and shipboard cultures use AI and social algorithms to keep people on similar schedules. All of these features are transparent and simple, and most people are happy to have their machines automatically calculate the appropriate date. It's easier than trying to manually work out the day and month with gravitational time dilation. Local time is handled similarly through the use of the Einstein chronometer, EC time, or as it is commonly known, easy time. This is the most common practice in the sphere. Your personal Geist adjusts your own chronometer and coordinates to others in your social cloud. It is the year 0077 of the new calendar. A century has passed since humanity began a new era of life among the stars. A new home for mankind, where people are born and raised and die. In the year 60 of the new calendar, the combined army arrived in the Paradiso system through a previously unknown wormhole. The invaders were the servants of the evolved intelligence. Thus began the First Paradiso Offensive. In 64 NC, the combined army forces on Paradiso made a second great offensive, boiling out of strongholds and taking cities across Nostralia and Septentria. Remote pilot Tony Makayana was killed at the height of the second offensive, leading to armies across the sphere to redesign their tag battle systems. In 65 NC, O12 came into possession of a Black Box through a convoluted series of classified operations. This Black Box was an alien artifact that allowed the human sphere to make contact with a possible ally in their war against the EI, the Tohaa, the Evening Star orbital station, and started negotiations with O12. Later that year, the combined army made an exploratory assault on Flamia Island, leading to a land grab and Operation Flamestrike. The most important result was the nomad seizure of the Zhurong power plant, which forced Yujing into a corner. Lobbying efforts increased, as did infiltration into businesses and criminal groups across the sphere. The year after, Yujing would seize a nomad freighter that was unknowingly carrying Shasvasti infiltrators. This gave Yujing justification to attempt to seize and dismantle the nomad-run La Foria shipyards around the Wotan wormhole. Wotan connected Svalarima to Paradiso. The ensuing conflict, referred to as Strike Zone Wotan, brought the other human sphere powers into conflict as well. Among the biggest winners were Pan-Oceania and Aleph, while the Nomads suffered further indignities. In the middle of this conflict, a trio of hacktivists known as Bit, Switch, and Cypher would send a stolen file to Victor Messer, their liaison on Svalarima. Bit was soon captured by the combined army during a prisoner transfer, while her companions were killed. The document they leaked, the backdoor file, was a long list of individuals suspected of collaborating with the combined army, which led to a massive wave of paranoia across the human sphere. Accusations of treason were common. This tension blended with Yujing's callous cruelty shown towards its own Japanese soldiers during the Wotan conflict. The result was the Great Japanese Uprising, a rebellion supported by Pan-Oceania in an attempt to further destabilize its rival. Time passed, and in the aftermath of the uprising, tensions cooled. The newly independent state of Japan wasted no time in expanding its holdings across the sphere, including on Dawn. Its settlement, Karage Station, was located on the relatively unexplored continent of Novi Cimmeria. The resulting fight brought in all of the human sphere powers as opportunists and peacekeepers, and was made more complex when it was discovered that this remote location held a forward operating base of the Onyx Contact Force. The brave forces of the Force de Réponse Rapide Merovingienne suffered extreme casualties while fighting against the alien threat. Victor Messer was forced to abandon his disinformation campaign and return to the Shasvasti fold. Yujing further invested into its clandestine work. One tangential result was the Knopf case. which led to hexahedron agent Emily Handelman being burned alongside with former Hexa assassin Knopf. The conflict also drew in the Druze Society, one of the largest criminal networks in the human sphere. Even the under-construction Druze Bayram Caravanserai was damaged. Druze leadership saw a series of shakeups in the aftermath, including a rebrand as a lethal mercenary service. Mercenaries would see further use and expansion in the wake of the Third Offensive. The combined army managed to breach the Acheron blockade, the space-based naval blockade that prevented the EI from reinforcing Paradiso. With those reinforcements, the combined army begins a massive assault on all fronts of the Paradiso system. Casualties spiked. The Hakislamite city of Gezira saw heavy damage to the forces of the Kapukalki during the defense of the space elevator. The primary goal was to obtain a relic held by the Pan-Oceanian military orders in the crypt of the Streltsau monastery. The EI sought to use this alien tracking device to locate the Tezeki Digester, a powerful and ancient alien creature. Shasvasti infiltrators recovered the relic, but their exfiltration vessel was shot down. Everyone on Paradiso began the search to recover the tracking device. The secondary goal of this offensive was distraction. An entirely new generation of Shasvasti were being deployed across the galaxy, into the systems of Human Edge, Svalarema, and Concilium. But the biggest offensive was into Tohaa space. Traveling through an unstabilized wormhole is a very risky proposition, and the odds are that the traversal will fail, stranding or destroying the spacecraft in the attempt. If one side is stabilized with a jump gate, the traversal is much safer. If both sides have jump gates, then the success rate is 100%. The Daedalus wormhole connected human and Tohaa space. Nobody was ready for what happened next. A group of Tohaa utilized a stolen assault ship to attack the Daedalus jump gate. This gate was the only link between the space of the Tohaa trinomial and their expeditionary force in human territory. It was heavily damaged, cutting the Tohaa off from their homeland. Generations of warfare against the combined army has resulted in a large portion of the Tohaa population submitting to the hegemony of the evolved intelligence. These are the Sigma, and they were blamed for the damage to the jump gate. However, there are reports that a mysterious group known as the Tohaa Triumvirate may have actually been responsible for the attack, intentionally cutting themselves off from their star empire for reasons unknown. The casualties after the Third Offensive were substantial. Every power had suffered losses, both territorial and materiel, and this motivated an unusual joint venture. Intel reported that the combined army was building a massive prototype jump stabilizer on the other side of the Acheron wormhole. This would have allowed an unfathomable and unstoppable assault by the hegemony, capable of crushing human resistance once and for all. The human response was Project Inanna, named for the Sumerian goddess of love and war. Spacecraft from the combined army were reverse engineered by O12, with the help of Tohaa bioengineers and numerous multinational cooperators. These ships were capable of crossing unstabilized wormholes. The goal of Project Inanna was to send these three ships, the Defiance, the Orpheus, and the Silencer, through the Acheron wormhole in order to wreak havoc on the realms of the evolved intelligence and destroy the gate. Only the Defiance survived to succeed in its mission, but it was a success. The gate was damaged, and the combined army could still only hope to trickle forces through the Acheron wormhole. Many of the greatest discoveries are by accident, and, if you're Fusilier Angus, you have a lot of accidents. Fusilier Indigo Angus and Bipandra were enjoying a drink at Bubba's Kantya, a bar on the asteroid of Novik Bangkok in the Human Edge system. Angus managed to anger a very large and very round Yuan Yuan, who activated his jump pack and blasted himself and Angus into a secret room behind the bar. They had unintentionally discovered a Shasvasti smuggling ring. Soon, every power in the sphere descended on the asteroid base, the headquarters of Akari Company. Violence erupted as every faction worked to eliminate every trace of alien intervention, while also protecting their own deep-cover secrets. One result was Operation Stakeout, a multinational venture to sniff out Shasvasti infiltration across the sphere. The systems that were possibly compromised were the Solar System, the Concilium system, and Human Edge systems. Many Shasvasti cells were indeed isolated and removed, but their success just led to squabbles. Humanity did not commit to the kind of fierce and active work that would be required to actually eliminate the Shasvasti threat. The noise of economic and border and regional disputes silenced the voices of reason in O12. At this point, the only major combined army threats were the substantial numbers on Paradiso, an isolated Onyx contact force on Dawn, and small cells on Svalarema. The human sphere powers were unable to eliminate any of these threats, but the short-sightedness of politics meant that all of these were deemed acceptable thorns in humanity's side. That all changed when Shasvas's teams gained access to Concilium. They set up an advanced quantum connection device that created a small artificial wormhole in the Concilium system. This allowed the horrifying assault on the relatively undefended and compromised Concilium Prima. Fighting began on Helheim, the southern continent, as well as through the many orbital colonies and stations of the Concilium Nova II ring. The combined army swept aside the local Concilium Planetary Defense Force, or CPDF. The continent of Helheim was extremely difficult to operate on, and for weeks and months, the CPDF's only goal was to slow the advance. They were bolstered by the forces of Section Spatha, the militarized tactical enforcement arm of Bureau Aegis. Also known as Sword 4, these mixed forces were at a serious disadvantage and engaged in maneuver warfare to try to blunt the assault. This strategy did not work. Several settlements were lost, with the only place that managed a serious defense being the crater of Hammerinsfeld, or Hammerfall. There just so happened to be a top-secret Sword 4 base in proximity, studying the crater. The Hammerfall crater is between 250 and 500 years old. Its massive size indicates that it should have killed all life on the planet, but when O12 discovered Concilium Prima, the planet's ecosphere was in relatively good shape and ripe for terraforming. The evolved intelligence spent quite some time trying to assault Trudheim base, refusing to use artillery for fear of disrupting whatever O12 was researching. Along with the brave sacrifices of Bureau Aegis troops, gave the human sphere the weeks and months required to muster a defense. The past few years of relative peace have given the human sphere bountiful fresh recruits and well-equipped veterans to deploy to Concilium Prima. Thank you for watching. Not that much to say this time. I have a Patreon, and if you find this video valuable, I'd love a few dollars of support to help me keep making more. Make sure to subscribe to this channel, because in my next video, we land on Concilium Prima and make our way to the region of Durgama.